Good evening, everybody in the comic book and collectible world. For all things nostalgic, whether you're collecting things from retro on to modern, I'm Vic Vega, and I provided this platform, Edge of Vegaverse, to cater to such things. And tonight we have a very special guest that I've been waiting to actually have this interview with for some time, Jonathan Chance.
Hello,
He's a writer, filmmaker, and screenwriter, and above a lot of other things under that title as well. So let's get into it. Throw that intro in right quick and get right back to it. Okay, so going forward, I'm going to get the paid version of this because it does not record on StreamYard, but hopefully it stays on my channel. Shouldn't be a problem on YouTube. And actually, let's throw a little bit of music in the background, just to have a little vibe going.
That's nice.
So I take care of everything myself as far as the banners, everything. I even make the music.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah, you can't depend on people, so sometimes you gotta do it all yourself.
No.
But yes, I definitely like to start by you introducing yourself to the world, to the viewers, and I think I would prefer to just for people to know your humble beginnings, before they know what led up to where you're at now. But we're really about to talk about mainly.
Writing and film have always kind of come intertwined together. Movies, I've grown up loving and enjoying, like horror movies since I was a little kid, and I think my imagination kind of grew from watching horror movies from a young age. And I think early on in school, I found out the two things that I really loved was writing and telling stories and doing artwork at the time. And then basically I went to art college, and not long after 3 years of art college, I got the film bug, and my brother and I and a bunch of mates got into filmmaking, and I think basically from there onwards we got into all the vastness of telling different stories in different mediums, in different ways. And then after that, I wanted to tell my stories in a different way. And comic books I always grew up enjoying since I was a kid with horror movies. So that's how making comic books came from that.
Right. So very similar beginnings, actually. I must say. I'm 44, so in my time growing up, there was a lot of epic 80s horror.
Yes.
Like Nightmare on Elm Street. Halloween kind of started in the year I was born, maybe even 2 years before, but they were a movie or two in. Then you had Friday the 13th, Hellraiser, going into the later 80s. You had The Blob, you had Thing,
Yeah, these are all great movies.
I think Killer Clowns from Space, something like that.
Oh yeah, Killer Clowns from Outer Space, yeah. Yeah, that cult classic. One
that wasn't horror, but it was funny. Supposed to be horror was Toxic Avenger.
Yeah.
One of those weird ones that I would watch late at night. It was hilarious. But yeah, also drawing, comic books. Once exposed to that was something that.
Right.
That's when your right side of your brain tap in.
Yeah, it is. It's full of. I think that's where your imagination kind of lives with. Different people are into different things, obviously, but for me, it was always it was between those two, writing and drawing, was the things I love to do.
Right. Do you feel like the drawing led to the writing, or the writing led more into creating the visual for it?
That's a good question, actually. You know what? The funny thing is, when I was finishing college, we finished college at a different kind of younger in many ways in England than other countries, maybe definitely different than what it is in the US. I did my 3 years of art college, and I wanted to basically get into drawing art for comic books and stuff like that. But comic books back then weren't really that popular, or they were at least dying out. It was like 2000, 2001 kind of era. And I knew that also, like, where was the money in that as well back then. So I thought, why not get into filmmaking? Because filmmaking at the time fulfilled all my creative needs. I could do writing, I could draw the poster art, I could do the acting, I could do the editing, I could do the special effects, all these things that we love to do. And you know, we take time trying to figure out how to do them all by ourselves and everything. So we're very creative people. And then basically I stopped drawing when we were doing the filmmaking, because I had all these other creative, you know, things that I was enjoying doing that I stopped drawing. So I feel like that stumped my growth of becoming like an artist, or taking just that one pathway. So then later on, you know, I did a few films with my brother and that, and then once by myself, a feature film and independent films. And we did pretty well with independent film festivals and stuff like that. And then I basically thought, why not try getting my stories out in this different way? And I grew up, like I said earlier on, enjoying comic books. And it was right around the era, only 4 or 5 years ago, I started getting into this. And it had to be around the same time that horror all of a sudden was either making a breakthrough in comics, or it was coming back again. But it wasn't like that before 5 years ago. So the timing was right. And now the drawing, I wished that I continued drawing years ago, and I stopped. So when I reach out to people when I do comic books, I look for, depending on the story, what type of artist is good for that particular type of story. There's some artists that are really great at doing like if I was looking for a particular type of artist that could do creepy Victorian like buildings and eerie woodland, and they'd be great for doing like a ghost story or something like that. And then there'd be other artists that maybe that's not their forte, and they're more better at doing a modern horror story or a sci-fi story and stuff. So it really depends on the artist. And you find the best artist or team that also has the same dedication that you do to really tell the story as best you can. So where my art comes into all of this is, even though I don't professionally do it, the filmmaking aspect was something that if I had not done that, it wouldn't have entered into my process of comic books, which is storyboarding. So I always storyboard along with the scripts. So when I do the scripts, I do very kind of vague storyboards, but they normally show you the like the camera angles as such. If it was filmmaking, the camera angles like medium close up, long shot, you know, the expressions and that, along to give with the notes and with the scripts. So then that way the artist can see exactly what your vision is, what you're trying to portray.
Right. Yeah, like the angles, the lighting, the mood, and as you were saying,
with the absolutely art. Yeah. You even mentioned that when you're sending notes over, that's when you get into the colorist stuff. And I often work with like Damien Philippe. He did the color for one of these stories that we're going to be talking about, which is to do with Permadeath. For the big game, he did the coloring for that before we worked together on Cover the Dead with Lime. And someone like Damien is really amazing, because if you tell him what you're after, you know that he's as dedicated as you are to getting it right? Because sometimes a lot of creators, you know, we've all got to make money, right? So you're on a certain amount of time to get stuff done, and you can only go back and forth so many times of, you know, can we try this? Can we try that? Can we try this? With Damien, he's very patient, but he seems to get, we have the same type of mind that when I say what I'm after, he knows what I'm trying to get. So, yeah.
And I also imagine, like, oh, goodness, I'm already hitting mute buttons and whatnot. Like, when you mentioned the color and the artists, like some artists, I read a lot of indie, more so than big two, because I love reading everything I could, but life doesn't allow that time. And, you know, we have Batman run is like 10 titles into one story. With indie, you get about 5 issues to 10 issues, and you get the whole, the whole set, and the whole entire story.
Yes.
And you're not cluttered. You can read a couple of different stories independent. So what I noticed from different artists and colorists, it sets the tone when you have more hue and dark browns and grays and neutral colors. Heavy work to bring the darkness in line, heavy lineage into it. I read Ice Cream Man. I read I forgot, there was a book I had him, Jeremy Hahn, he wrote it, called Red Lady, I think. I think it's the wrong title.
It sounds like, I think I've heard of that one then.
Really good artwork. I think Chris Lambert is the artist, and we had him on the Comic Book Trap House, and he's a great writer as well with horror. I think you guys are great. And that's awesome. I know line work brings that dim, almost it's creepy, and I read some books like there's one recently, Kill Your Darlings, I think. It's good,
all right,
and it has a really dark twist from a fairy tale kind of girl, imaginary stuffed animal land she's in, but there's a dark twist to murder. But the artwork would have been a tad bit darker. Some of the artists, they draw almost like Disney meets Marvel-ish when it should
right. See, that's such an important factor, trying to get the right artist for the mood of your story too, because I feel like often I'll even see big 2 comics or high-end indie comics, and I'm like, wow, my standard, let's put it this way, I'm a very kind of perfectionist kind of thing, maybe for good or bad. In this case, what I'm doing is probably a good thing, where it's like, wow, like the colors on this isn't so good, or like the art on this isn't so good, like the story's there, the concept's there, but then I'm wondering, like, how did this get through? I'm thinking, well, that must mean that I must have a high standard, or at least what I'm after, a quality. That's a good thing, especially for horror, when you're trying to convey, in my mind, telling like anthology stories, horror stories, stuff like that. That's me telling my short films, but in a comic book format. And I'm showing that through the visuals, through the storyboards. I'm showing the shots, the angles of what it would be if it were a movie. So that way, when they read the comic, they open up the pages and they see the comic, and it's like, I can totally imagine this as a movie or a TV series or something. And if you've got that, if at least they see that immediately, and it's happened with a few titles I've done, and not just one artist, but different artists, which means you must be doing something right. You've got them, you've got the audience. That's what you want, because sometimes that doesn't quite mesh together,
Right. Yeah, that's what I noticed with a lot of books. It's like someone wearing the wrong outfit that doesn't look good on them, but they meant well trying to show out, but it's like, it doesn't look good on them. Right. Also, I'd like for you to run down some of the titles of the films. I know you and your brother had Chance Encounters on films. I actually want time to watch everything. And your project with heavy metal, Antarctic Press, you have some notches under your belt that I'd just like you to expand on.
Right. Sorry. Well, yeah, the film. No worries. No worries. The film stuff. That kind of when we started out, the first film we ever did was The Veil, which was a horror movie. Basically, if you're going to make a movie, never make a feature as your first film. We start with a short film because it was very ambitious. But there's still so much of that movie I'm very proud of. We did everything on that, from playing multiple parts and acting, and like I was saying before, special effects, editing, voiceover work, especially all that stuff. And then we did more films, short films, and a lot of these films that I've done, The Veil was released, although we weren't happy with the quality of it and the audio. I would prefer that they ever released a better version of that, because and again, bearing in mind this movie is from 2005, 2004 originally. It's when we finished it, which is a long time ago. But a lot of it, the stuff of that still holds up, but parts of it. But the rest of the films we did were short films, which fared better because the more films that we did, I feel like the better we got at our craft, especially telling these short tales, right? And we got into more film festivals, then some we'd won, either best short film or in some cases a screenplay, like nominated for best horror screenplay, stuff like that. But then from that, it was really comic books. Funny enough, was one of those things that took off pretty quickly, quite almost immediately. That I thought, well, I think this is the thing I'm supposed to do at least right now. But I'd love to transition back to films because those stories, those short films in that, only the film festivals have ever seen those movies. The people that went to those film festivals, we never released them cinematically, anything like that, because short films, I don't know if you realize, but short films don't normally make it in any way onto, onto apps or things like that, unless you release them on YouTube and stuff. But comic books, on the other hand, that's the great thing about that, is that when they're released, anyone, anywhere can get them. And I think that to me was so amazing. The fact that my mum in England could pick up a copy from the comic store where I grew up, that I was getting comic books when I was 8 or 9 years old, and she can get my comic from there in England and then all over the world as well. So there's a feeling that I'd never had before with filmmaking that you get from your comic book out there on a shelf. Like that's, I get to actually see the reality, where when you make a movie, a short film or a feature film, whatever, you see it as the reality, in the movie theater or the film festival, whatever, and then that's it. You never know what anyone really thinks of anything, and then people online are normally rude as well anyway, so you can't always, you take all that with a pinch of salt. But then with comic books, that's the great thing, is like, if I go to a con or if I go to a signing, I actually realize people actually bought the comic, and that's still something I'm still humbled by, like the people actually buy your story. So that's a cool thing, and I'm still enjoying that, like 5 years doing this now. So,
and I think what makes that special too, like with the comic book, is the tangible, of it being material, like it's for keeps. With the film, it's like a few people saw the UFO, but they don't believe it. They might be like, it was great, but they can't believe it. Like, I wasn't there, I didn't see it. So that's the difference.
It's true. It's true.
You explain it, but I could imagine, like, it's probably what's the budget difference when you're working on film or versus when you're creating the comic book? Because I know it's all costly nonetheless.
Yeah, well, in many ways, comics, funny enough, you wouldn't think it. In the films that we were doing beforehand, they were mainly no budget, low budget, and our ideal was, let's show people, let's show film festivals, let's show, if there's possible agencies, what we can do with nothing, and then basically give them the imagination to imagine what we can do if we had much more. That was always the idea. That was always the ambition of that. So we did film after film after film. And the thing is, with things like that, especially, in the United States, there's such a rat race, thousands, if not maybe even millions. A lot of people are all trying to do the same thing you're trying to do. Many have great, unique ideas. Many do not. And then sometimes it really is as simple as it is who that gets through the door. And then you see movies getting made, and then big blockbusters, and you wonder how they ever get made. It's like, oh, they must have known someone.
Yeah.
But then, having said that, the comic books, even though I took this different pathway to tell stories, and in many ways it was organic. It was something that was like, wow, I should have done this a long time ago. It in many ways costs more money because I'm basically investing in not only myself and my story, but I'm investing in others, what their abilities, and I'm believing in them that they can do it. to make this great story with me. And I'm hoping that they have the same determination, same passion, and then for us to all work together and bring out this book. And we're not doing it for the money, we're doing it for the love of it. That's normally what I go in doing. So it costs more money to make comic books. It's not cheap. But there is the feeling of satisfaction when you get that first story done, whether it be a short story, which I started with, a short story, which is like 5 pages, or if you finish that issue, which is a real achievement, that one issue that you get to create. But then movies-wise, though, that's the cool thing too, is that comic books now are having that transition to TV and movies. So I would love the fact, if it comes back round again, that I could get to that point where your story could become a TV show or a movie, and then you do get to have that budget, and then that way in filmmaking it is way more than comic books. But we never got to that point where we could see, oh shit, yeah, that costs $100,000. I see why. That doesn't sound like a lot of money for filmmaking world. It is for indie people though. But the good thing is, working years and years before, what I learned was how to make a great film with a frugal budget. So you give me $100,000, I can make that look like a $2 million movie, you know? So where other people might not be able to do that, you know, because you've started out from these humble beginnings of making things with so little.
And that's the thing that kind of like I ponder on, like when I'm streaming independent movies. There's a lot to choose from, so many different platforms, you know, and I'm like, geez, like, how is this happening? And how do these people have a budget to do such a thing? And then I'll go on Key Collector and see the comic turn to a film, and all of a sudden you got a new key issue out, you know. These things, it just they go together, and you wonder, how does that happen? It's almost like it's too easy, but you know, there's probably a ton of work that the average mind would even fathom putting that into materialization, to fruition, you know.
Right. Normally over the process of many years as well. And it's also just, you know, when it's bigger publications and, you know, once they've got some association with a studio, something getting greenlit can then be up and running like immediately. But with other things, it can just be grassroots, you know, organically done, and it becomes big that way. But normally, there's no way as it normally takes years. We just don't see that part of it, you know. Yeah.
A lot of people don't know how many of these movies were based off of, you know, basic independent, smaller titled comic books, you know, that got options.
That's right.
It's crazy, like when you really think about it, and they might have watched the movie a couple of times and they still don't even know that the origin is the book that exists.
Yeah.
Like
the collectors know because they're, like you say, going crazy trying to dig up the key issues they might have bought when they were younger, or if they haven't bought them, they're going to try and buy them. So I know what you mean when you were saying earlier on about that.
And before we get to the main topic, which is your upcoming title, I'm a fan of this book, which how we you know, got acquainted, and I would just like you to give just a little detail and information for the people about your I guess what created this book, and you know, your aspirations, what led to it being published, and the writing process, the research. I'm going to pull that up on the screen right quick, if you don't mind.
Sure.
And bear with me, I am so new to this. But I'm pulling it up right now. Usually we have a team here with Comic Book Trap House, and one guy knows how to do it all. You know, coming right now. Okay, here we go. Yep. Okay. So this is the book right here.
Oh, yes. Cover the Devil's Mind. Yes.
I thought it was sick when I saw it in the bookshelves on that new comic book Wednesday, and I said, "What the hell is this?" Just the title alone, the cover was just so grim. With me.
It's funny now looking at it. It looks so abysmal. It looks so sad and depressing. And but that was what we wanted to get, the effect. That's what we wanted to get. So this cover was by the two main people I got together at the beginning, which is Hernan and Gonzalez with Damien Philippe. And we were basically, later on, Drew Lenhart came on, which made the Beatles, the 4-piece Beatles band that became Cover the Dead with Lime. What came from this story, where this came from, originally it was a horror film script that I'd written back in 2009. And at that point, there was so many horror movies, so many zombie movies out at that time. It was so saturated. There was just so many. There was more bad zombie movies than there were good zombie movies. This was kind of just before Walking Dead had kind of come along and put a stamp on it, kind of thing. So I thought, you know what, I'll put this on the back burner. But the idea behind it was, what if there was an alternate reality where people do not die from the plague, but they come back as zombies? And I thought, well, you know what? Nothing's gone that far back in time, and how limited they are in their resources, and about this mysterious character, this plague doctor, Jack Teller, who is going from town to town. And we're thinking, is he trying to help people? Or is he, then we find out he's actually having to execute them as well, and what that job is, and imagining the not only daunting task, but the I think the grief and the sadness of that as well. It's such a dark sort of I think experience for this person, this character to be going through. Where's the hope that's going to come from this? When is the plague going to end? So how this came about, when COVID appeared in 2020, I thought, you know what, this is absolutely terrible and disturbing and sad, and hearing about everything that was happening. And I thought Cover the Dead with Lime could be something that, at least if people saw this, this is worse in some capacity. If you can imagine, where there's no medicine, there's no help, it's actually hellish, it's depressing, it's sad, it's raining all the time. People literally were throwing out their toiletries, you know, back then on the ground, and I wanted to show that in the imagery. So I think the team that we got for this was perfect, putting together that feeling of just dread and just the grim reality of back then. And I think by people reading this, also with COVID happening at that time, and it still is in some ways, people were thinking, wow, I know what it feels like to feel limited, to feel claustrophobic, to feel like I have to constantly wear a mask and be safe. And who is this person sick? Oh shit, you know. So it had that extra air of horror about it, added to the reality that we were living at that time.
Absolutely. It hit it right on the nail, actually. I think people could empathize with the whole vibe. Was like you're on your own, like, you know, everyone's already sick or scared of getting sick, and the loss of life, and, you know, the fear, you know. So
right, exactly.
You know, and also the artwork definitely fit the tone. I was very impressed with the inner pages. Made friends with the artists on IG as well.
Right.
You know, tabs, which is you know, I love making connection with some of the writers and artists. It just kind of makes the book more personal, you know.
Oh, absolutely, and they're great people. They're not only passionate people, but they're really kind and great people as well to work with. And I think when you've got that positive energy in a group, like I was saying earlier on, if you feel that you've met the right person that's in it for the love of the story, and they're not just about the money. I know we've all got to be paid, but if they're in it for the love of the story and the love of creating something that's going to be memorable, then you've got the right team with you, you know. That's issue 2. You know.
Had to showcase all of them, man. I can't show all of there's a lot of variants to these covers.
Yes, it was. Yes.
Curious about that.
Right.
Online, they're still available, and not to toot my own horn, but I actually have 3 issues right here. on my personal.
Oh, lovely. There you go. 1, 2, and 3. Yeah.
It's a good.
Yeah.
You got
That's awesome.
Player, but you got to keep those bags and boards on them.
The funny thing is those 3 covers you've got there. I think it's cover issue 1, 2, and 3 covers A of all 3 of them. All 3 of those were all sketched out originally for. We were doing them as covers to basically show with a couple of pages as a pitch to different publishers. So that was the first thing that we did. So I had like a very basic 7 or 8 pages of script, and I'd sketched out, okay, there's the plague doctor, and it's all grimy, and there's all people, and they're sick, and the first cover, second cover, third cover, and then they ended up becoming issue 1, issue 2, and issue 3, originally from those original sketches. And that's the great thing, is like you were talking about, seeing it materialize like that was like, wow. And that came from these drawings, right? And her name was so great at capturing. It's like, if I was going to be a type of artist that was doing this type of story, this is the guy I want for that. And then Damien is that 1-2 punch, like his colors to this only like brought out even more just horrific colors and just griminess, and just you can literally, it just feels very stodgy just reading it and watching it. Again, I can visualize the movie of it while I'm watching it, but, yeah,
it definitely had that touch, like with the darker colors, the mud, the heavy use of inks. It gave that emotion that you wanted when you read it, and I really do hope that it picks off where it left off real soon. Of course, anything's possible. I think it's just timing and get something right, because I'm sure you have a list of things you're writing all the time, and you work.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
California.
Yeah. Well, funny enough, I might have said this story once before, or at least I've told my friends about it. When I was at WonderCon only a few months ago, an old gentleman, he must have been about 70 something, comes up to me and he goes, "Where's issue 4? Why did you stop? What's going on?" I'm like, I'm sorry. He was genuinely upset with me. And it's like, I go, you got to understand, trust me, I would have loved to have, the idea was to show the full story arc, which was 8 issues, to tell the full story. And we finished issue 4 and we didn't release it due to, I did basically post about that we were not being treated the way we wanted to be treated. I've said about this before. Basically in this world, it's like comic books is like Hollywood writers' strikes, but without a union. Now imagine you're a writer in Hollywood and you didn't have the union. So basically you're shouting down a tunnel and no one's listening. You might as well be shouting back at yourself. With comic books, there's no real union. There's not one union. Apparently there's a union for Image Comics, which doesn't help because they're already on the top tier end of comic books. They're on that, it's Marvel, DC, Image, or, Dark Horse Image. So that doesn't help the rest of us that are building, or trying to build a career in writing and artistry, and starting from the bottom, starting with self-publishing or indie, and then there's all these different layers of indie. It's not just indie. Image Comics is, when people say Image is a indie comic, it is. Yeah, I mean, it was. Yeah. But anymore though, it's so high end. To me, it's like it's top of the tier, right? So, I mean, I'm happy that I've managed to work with Heavy Metal, which is more of a higher end indie comic. I mean, I was so happy to have that published, and Antarctic Press, and now most recently Dead Sky Publishing are a great publishing team altogether. But there are publishers out there that, without saying who, and different companies, but there are that you have to protect yourself, and it's because we have spent thousands of dollars. We've produced, an issue or a series with a group of people, And you, the writer, the creator, has spent all that money. You've spent the money hiring this team, and you're the only one that's not getting paid. And you're not getting paid even though it's your creation, which makes no sense. Right. So the one thing that you wait for is at the end of it, okay, you know, the comic's produced and I expect to get paid in some capacity. You're aware that it's, you know, it's hard out there. You might not get as much as you might because of, you know, Diamond takes a little bit off the top, the publisher takes their part, and then you have your part. But then when things happen that you don't even get that, it is exploitation, and that's the sad thing, and it's a real thing that's happening in comic books. So I didn't want to get into that, but it is the fact of the matter. So if you're a comic book writer out there, if you're a creator, do your research. Look around, ask, find out if people got paid or are getting paid, because as much as there's amazing, incredible publishers out there, like I said, I'm so happy that Dead Sky Publishing is a fantastic publisher, and there are others out there as well. Antarctic Press is another one. There are ones out there that just want to take advantage in a way, so yeah, sadly.
Yeah, I remember when you told me about that, and I was down in the shitter, because I was like, damn, we was waiting for that issue for a week. You know, we was like, we got one here. You know,
I wanted to put it out. You know, yeah. And this is the thing. So anyway, to not be too depressed or depressing about any of this, I believe, and like when I wrote about it, and my post is still out there if anyone wants to read about what went down with Cover the Dead with Lime. I do believe truly in my heart of hearts that it will see the light of day with another publisher, and I think it's just a matter of time whether or not we'll either put it out with the first 3, even though they're out there, there's an audience of people that hasn't read those first few, so whether or not that comes out as its own like a trade paperback in the form of that, or we bring out the first 3 but it has, you know, some exclusivity about it, that makes it, you know, like with the unique covers or you know, an extra story attached or something like that, that will bring back the audience that we had and also be open to the new audience that comes with it. And then we can finally continue telling the rest of the story of Jack Teller and Cover the Dead with Lime.
Oh yeah, that would be
cool.
Exciting. We would definitely look forward to that. And
yeah, so I think it's a matter of time. It's just getting the right people, and you know, I think some places say, well, this is already published. But it's like, well, no, it's not. It never finished its run. It never finished its full published run. We only published the first few. It's still something with potential, and people are still talking about it. People still want to know what happens. So that's a good thing.
That is, because I think it'll pick up where it left off. You know, one thing about a story is people need to find out. It's like there was this show called Wayward Pines several years ago that came out.
Yeah, I know that was
so damn good, but it just, you know, I think, well, what's his name was in it? Matt Dillon.
Matt Dillon.
And I was really enjoying where it was going, but it just got canceled. And that was the end of that. You just didn't hear anymore. You're not gonna know what happened. And that's how I felt about, you know, Cover the Dead. I'm like, we'll be back. We'll be back.
Yeah, we will be back. We will be back. I feel like, okay, if we're leading now into what we've been leading up to, I feel like off of the success of something like Permadeath, maybe even other titles, or maybe this one specifically, maybe, who knows, that the Cover Dead line will get picked up. But like you were saying, it's also down to publisher schedules as well. So if it did get picked up, it's down to publisher schedules. So even if I wanted to say, let's bring it out right now, you've still got to wait for them to put it in a nice place. Okay, 6 months from now or a year from now. Hopefully not as long as that, but you never know. But also, I'm working on other things as well at the same time, currently at the moment. Oh, I want to get into reading his comments with you guys. Oh, okay. Thank you very much, Channel of Call. I was just reading their comments down the bottom here.
Yeah, that's a good brother right there. He has a really cool channel as well with a lot of content.
Oh, nice. Well, thanks for joining us there as well. So I feel after after Permadeath and other stories that are coming out that I'm working on right now, I think anything, the sky's the limit, and I think Cover Dead with Lime will have that comeback that we've been waiting for.
Hell yeah. And this is into the big kahuna right now, which
Okay.
throw the banner up first. Actually, before I do that, no, I'll give credit to everybody where credit is due in a minute. Yeah, let's put that up there.
Nice.
No, let's talk about the book first and then the creative staff. See, this is what happens when you're new to this shit, all right? So I'm just winging it. I don't write stuff. I don't have a list or
That's all good.
a board to read off of, So we just being us. So yeah, you have this new project out that I'm very excited about. You got a proper publishing to put it out and do right by you so that this book can, it's a one-shotter with 2 stories. Read them. It's trippy as hell. I gotta admit, I already knew that I was gonna be pleased with what with the work that you come out with, but this ain't about me. This is about the readers and what they can expect. So I'll let you take the stage and break it down.
Okay. All right. Well, there's got a new comic book coming out, which is 2 Tales of Terror, a double feature one-shot comic book called Permadeath, and it's going to be out until June. Yes, the link right there. And there's also links on your page on Instagram and my page, and it's only on pre-order until June 26th. So once that cuts off, I don't know if people realize this who are still, if they're not like full-on comic collectors, once that deadline's ended, it's harder to get because then it becomes a back issue or you've got to get it on eBay and things like that. So right now is the perfect time to get it while you still can. It's out till June 26th, and it's basically a great horror anthology double feature book with 2 stories in it. 2 stories that I made called The Big Game and Scattershot. And I think even though these are 2 completely different horror tales, I think the one thing they have in common is that they have difficulty dealing with reality.
Right.
And the big game is about a group of elderly gentlemen who live in an old people's home, and they basically, one of the characters, Eugene, desires to escape. And as you know, old people can't escape from I'm sure most elderly homes. So his idea would be through his friend that he knows to escape via astral projection.
Right. Which
is a very unique kind of different take, and I can't think of any horror movies really, or at least for a long time, that I can think of that deal with this subject matter, which is an interesting thing, which is actually normally used it's something that's used to do with rituals and things like that with the native people. The creative team behind this is Raphael Lanhalis, who's the illustrator, and the colorist is there we go. The colorist is Damien Ilfili, who is the guy you might know his colors from Cover Dead with Lime, and he's working on another couple of stories right now with me as well. DC Hopkins, he's all over the joint. He's working with Marvel, DC, so he's always great. So that's the story. That's the big. And then with Scattershot, this is a one about a teenager. Well, actually, he's 20, who basically wants to break through into the gaming world, and he thinks that at any cost. So we go between 2 worlds, between this young man as he's trying to compete for this game that he can win, and at the same time we're seeing him as the character in the game trying to progress across this quest, and he's trying to compete, so he sees himself in this way. And in this story, at any cost, he wants to improve his reality, improve his life. And I think that's the similarity between this and the big game, that they're not happy in their reality, in their existence. And this is the reason why that they're trying so hard to find an escape, find some other type of escapism. The cover here is done by Rodel Nora, and he's worked on another story with me before. And the actual story Scattershot is by Del Barris. Del Barris is actually originally a storyboard artist for many of your favorite cartoons from the 80s and 90s, including X-Men. So any you X-Men lovers out there that are enjoying the new X-Men TV series, he was one of the original storyboard artists from the original X-Men cartoon, G.I. Joe as well, Transformers and that. And he still works in independent comics. And he did the story Scattershot with colorist, who's fantastic colorist as well. Colorist has worked on Iron Maiden comic before, and now I'm thinking also of who else is involved with that. On Lettered by Ann Well Design, which is also to do with DC Hopkins as well.
Oh,
but yeah, that cover there. Yeah.
The heavy metal. You mentioned that already. He worked with Image, DC, Opus, Incendium.
Yes. Yeah. The colorist is great. Omar Estevez. Yeah. So he's worked on a whole bunch of like Iron Maiden, Bill and Ted, Batman '66, lots of cool stuff. But even like and the colorist for the covers, even Brad Simpson. Again, people will recognize his name in the comic book community. He's done hundreds of horror titles. So Rodell Nora did the cover for that one. Brad Simpson did that. And then there's cover B. And cover B is by Rob Gurrigan, who did an amazing cover B. And I love that it's a different type of take. Yeah, there we go. I love that this, to me, like is great. We've got two different takes. You've got that classic horror cover with cover A, and then with cover B here, the variant. I love that Rob combined the two stories together, and there's a lot of humor on the cover. Yeah, and look out for the cat. Oh yeah, and look out for the cat down the bottom, because in the story that is, there is something related with the cat in the story.
That's definitely right there.
Oh, it's great. Yeah, it's and I love the way that he's blended the two together and meshed the two together, and he's brought the humor out in all of it, and it's definitely captured all the characters in it, even if it's in this kind of comedic kind of horror way. So I love the fact that we can bring out two variants, and the publisher, let me give praise for the publisher, Dead Sky Publishing. The guy behind it is Steve Wands, and it was J.M. Brand, who I'd met originally at LA Comic Con, had said, there's this publisher coming out, they're good people, which you're looking for in the comic book community, especially if you're creating your own stuff. You want someone that you can work with, and generally go into a partnership. You want to be a creator with a publisher, and that you're working together as a team, and that you can both benefit. So Dead Sky Publishing has been great the entire time with Steve Wands. I've been working with on this, and putting these together, these two variants here. I love the fact that we've got two completely different types of cover, and I think you'll have an audience of people that want to pick up this cover because it's different, and then the other cover because it's just your classic, like, scary, great horror book cover that you want to pick up and open it up and see what's inside of it.
Yeah, I felt like a dark comedy, but it's not so funny. Yeah, it's like, it's a everything, it's like black humor, dark humor, black humor. That's what they used to call it, like Heathers. Both stories, like a holy shit,
yeah. So that's So these are originally horror anthology stories, and I wanted to kind of put them out in a way to show, especially with the big game, that story, to show not only a great combination of beautiful artwork, but also a bunch of characters that you might not see often. And we managed to get some good blurbs, actually. I got a good blurb from Steve Orlando, who's the writer of Wonder Woman and Justice League, and he read the comic book and really loved the stories and stuff. And one thing I didn't think about, but he'd said that what I love about these two stories is that both the protagonist or the antagonist, or whatever you may call them in the story, are very unusual, different, not your normal run-of-the-mill types of characters. And I love that. And in the big game, you've got a host of I think there's about 7 characters, and the idea was to make them, all as unique as possible, and that they stood apart, and that you could tell that there was character and banter between them and everything. And then with the Scattershot story, it was more about a personal journey, a personal quest that goes wrong, basically. And the guy really, in his heart's heart of Scattershot, I think gamers will love this story because there's something behind it where it's like, we've all got that passion and dream that we want to do for things, but at what cost? And at what cost is, it could mean the ultimate cost, which is sad. So
especially when you see online, you see stories about real life gamers where it becomes an obsession. There was one funny one that went viral many years ago with the kid with the milk. He was breaking down and he just caught a total meltdown. He was like, I've been awake for 3 days drinking milk, and his mouth was just white and crusty from the milk.
Oh my God, I never saw that.
He just totally started flipping and breaking out because he was up for 3 days just with milk. And
oh my God. That sounds like the story. It sounds like the story.
And then you got the Psycho Dad. I don't know if there's Psycho Dad videos on YouTube where the dad mow lawns over his video games, his Xbox games. And and I think in this day and age, we were all gamers, but I think the games have gotten so more interactive and immersive that it's even harder to pull that plug.
And that's why I like that Scattershot in this Permadeath story mixes with. It's like, why not show 2 realities, the reality that we live in and the reality in the game that he sees himself as? Because I know what you mean. Without sounding like, I'm out of touch, when I was using my brother-in-law's VR unit, within about 2 minutes of putting that helmet on, I was like, wow, this is so incredible. I can't believe how real this feels.
Right.
And then I've got a gun and I'm doing this and that. And I can see how, let's put it this way, people that are not in a good mental state, how terrible things like shootings and things like that can happen because something as so real and we are not kidding when we say this, but so real that if you can't tell the difference between reality and the game feels so real, and if your mind isn't, let's say healthy, I was just within a few minutes, I felt addicted. And it's funny, so when people used to say back in the day, horror movies are the reason that this person killed this person, or records because it's got this on the record, this is the reason why this person. Funny enough, games now are so, I think, are even more deadlier in some aspects in VR units. And now we're entering into AI and stuff like that, that when we can't tell the difference between reality, that's scary. And that to me is why I enjoy telling horror stories, because if you can see at least hindsight from a distance of what could be, and unless someone's saying we need to look out for this, and that's what we used to do back in the day with Twilight Zone, that's what we used to do back in the day with the Terminator, and here we are, and it's Skynet. It's Skynet right now, So
it's even more wild because with the games, kids know how to load guns now with games.
That's terrifying. That's terrifying.
The ammunition, the explosives, the battlefield. My son knows a lot about that, just from playing the game, and has never touched it in real life.
Right, and isn't that kind of to be that immersed in something, and it's hard to switch. I could see even after that few minutes, I was thinking I could easily do this for hours, and then I feel like I'd be in a state of I gotta take this off, and I gotta go relax and switch off and remember where I am, because that's how intense it is now, I think, with games, for sure. Yeah,
especially when you got I used to love games where you have to walk through it, open lockers, find clues, put the clues together. Those were, I was obsessed with those. I would break night on those. So
Yeah. Oh, those are fun too, because there's something about those too, because that's the part of games that actually feels like you're actually using your mind as well. You're using your mind to actually figure out clues and the mysteries and stuff like that as well. So yeah, it's a fine balance, I think, right now. Yeah.
Where would you see yourself as far as you have a passion for both film and comic book making? I think you're on a roll with the comic books, and it's probably more like there's no convenience with either. But I think as far as like the physicalities of it, like, you know, we're getting a camera crew and lighting and settings and budgets versus, you know, finding talent, letting them take care of the handiwork, and then just putting all together like Voltron. And they both are the art of storytelling, you know, and paint a certain picture. Do you see yourself steered more with bringing forth more projects on in the comic book world?
Well, at the moment, I'm definitely comfortable doing comic books, because after Cover the Dead kind of went south for a minute, I've just been writing. And since last year, I've basically been kind of dedicated to bringing out a whole bunch of things, you know, this year, and I'm hoping to still succeed in doing that. Permadeath has got 2 stories on that, so I'm hoping to get maybe 2 or 3 more out by the end of the year, whether they be short stories or another one shot or something like that. But I'll see how I go, because at the end of the day, as much as I'd like to put them out, it's also, again, like I was saying, it's down to the schedules of publishers. So between 2024 and 2025, I think there's going to be quite a few things out. I think starting with these first 2 stories, I reckon between now and next year, this time next year, I'd like to say that there would be another series out that I've been building, and definitely a couple of short stories and maybe a one shot or something like that. I'm very comfortable doing these right now, but also I'm aware that if there was interest in a moment's notice, I would definitely say, yes, I would love to adapt this to a TV series or a movie or whatever. And the great thing is, because I started out in the filmmaking world, I have, you know, got friends and things like that that have been seeing how the comic books are going and how they're kind of how the popularity is growing, and how that's also to do with now closer to movies and TV shows as well. So now there's interest for comic books turning into those things. So I would love to make that transition. So I'm definitely open to that. But also in the meanwhile, I love telling comic book stories, so I don't have a problem doing both. As long as there's some capacity where if something's going to be adapted, there is going to be that part of me that's like, you know, let's put it this way, I've been saying this before. If one of my anthology stories, it was to say become a creep show episode or something like that, let's just say, you know, that dream came true, then I would say, can I direct it? You know, something like that. Because in that way, there's like when you watch a TV series and there's different episodes and different creative teams, sometimes those stories they don't transfer well. Some like you'll see Creep Show. I don't know if you've seen Creep Show the series, but some episodes are really great, others aren't. And I'd be that person to be like, oh, let me adapt this, please. Like, just, I know what to do. I know what it's going to visually look like. I know the team. I'll, you know, show me who you've got that could bring these colors to life. Like you say, the lighting, the mood, the textures. And then that way, at least you can have something to be proud of if you've got one opportunity of putting it on the big screen, you know, for sure.
Heck yeah. Like who would do better, you know, who would be able to operate it better than the creator himself with the, you know, who has who created the business.
Yeah.
I wanted to say, you at the back of the book, without giving away, you had a very touching afterword. I actually shared that with my lady, and she was very touched by it. And I know she's resonating also with the books because she's a huge Creep Show fan. But I didn't. Nice. What I just said and that did not go together. That's that ADHD. So I'll stick with the without having to get too detailed into things, because I know that those are not very easy things to talk about. But the afterword, touched and by it. That was very something from deep within to share with your readers, man. And I remember the first you even told me, I was like, wow, just I was very wild because of the passion that could make people stop what they're doing, but and made the drive with it,
I think that's the thing. I think that was the thing at the heart of comic books. For me, films were great. I love making films, and now I'm finally at that place now where I can make films. But at that time, when my wife had passed, it was like you were saying earlier on. I can't really rely on anyone but myself right now. And I know at the very least that if I fail at this, then I've failed. At least I haven't relied on anyone else but myself. So I can fail at it, and that's okay, but at least I'm going to try. So that's what I did, is I just got into stories. And for years, I mean, I always was trying to break through with the film stuff and everything. My wife, years back, she always saw this in me. She always saw that I was so great at what you do. She even called me a genius. I was like, whatever. Like, it was very, I didn't see it. But then as these stories have come out, and I was talking about in the afterword about I see patterns in things, which is a beautiful concept, and it's absolutely true. That stuff was true. Like the one big like comic company that opened up to me, that I could get breakthrough with was heavy metal. And funny enough, my wife used to wear a heavy metal t-shirt. So there's these elements in there, and I wonder if she had something to do with that. And that's the thing I even thought and wondered if I should even put that afterword at the end. I thought I could do the thing where I talk about I love horror movies and horror, I could do that. But I thought, you know what, like, if I can get people to read this, which is, stop for a moment about, the fun and playfulness of an enjoyable horror tale, and be like, wow, you can also be serious, and there's some seriousness here, and it comes from a place of passion, no matter what it is, even if you're telling a playful horror tale, but at the heart of it, that's what I was trying to do. So by telling these stories, it was very cathartic when everything had happened back then, and since then it's just been driving forward, and I feel like that's why I'm going forward more with this than other things, because I see that there's an opening here to basically flourish more. So
I really feel like the human experience, the reader can make the connection. It's one thing.
Yeah.
I think anyone could agree with me where you might become more of a fan or connected with a creator once you know the layers and the depth of that creator. When you find behind the imaginary or artwork, whatever have you that creator does, the music, when you get to know that a little bit more about that person, that connection is developed, the coding, and
I love that. Yeah, because I didn't think of it that way as well, but that's so true. Like it's like when we used to watch John Carpenter movies and stuff like that. I mean, his name's on it, and we love the horror movies, but like you say, it's better example, David Lynch or something like that, when you love the person, or at least his ideals, or like he's just a really sweet, positive person in real life. David Lynch is, right, and you're buying into the name. It's a David Lynch movie, and I know it's going to be good because I know where his heart's at. I know that it comes from a good place. I know it comes from passion. And I always joke about, I even joked, I think, in the afterword, that if you like horror movies, does that make you a horrible person? And I go, well, that's the funny things, that half the people I grew up getting to know, like the people that you wouldn't assume are the nicest people, like goths, people that are into death metal music, that are into Satanists and stuff like that, end up being sometimes the nicest people you ever meet. So it really is, you never know who you're going to encounter. But it's genuinely, I think everyone likes a good tale, everyone likes a good scare, And there's nothing morbid or evil about something like that, but it's more a case of, it's like the enjoyment of a roller coaster. You know, you want that thrill and excitement. And I love storytelling, and if I could make a proper career out of this, then that's what I'm trying to do. So, yeah.
It also makes you to say, while you're reading it or watching it, I'm glad that ain't me.
It's true. Thank you so much. I want to say thank you to all the words that are being said down the bottom. Thank you so much. I've been seeing the words, and I haven't stopped a moment to mention all the people that have said things, but thank you so much. I appreciate all the things that have been said about this conversation with Vic, and about the stories we've been doing and everything. I appreciate you guys. But I appreciate the support. And this is the thing, you know, I don't see it unless I go to a con. I don't see it unless I go to a signing, or unless someone makes a comment on Instagram or on Facebook or Twitter or whatever. If people don't say anything, you don't know who's reading your stuff. So when people do reach out, I always appreciate it, because this is all still new to me. And I'd like to think if I was doing this even for years, I'd still appreciate it. I couldn't be jaded from something like that, because I'm humble that I love these stories, but that's just me, because I'm going to be biased, obviously. But if other people love them, then I'm doing something right. So
that's how we got here today, because we love the stories, you know, love the work, and and your personality, like how receptible you were, just made it even more of a, like, I'm always gonna look forward to what he has and what to support.
Right.
You know?
I appreciate that.
That's a big part, is the person behind the magic, you know.
Right.
That bridge gap of imagination and the reality of it. Like, wow. It's like giving props to who built your house. You know, your house looks beautiful, but you don't know whose hands it was that built it. The story that
Right. You know what? I'm so happy that you've just put the cover up there, because amidst all the talking, I've got to mention a couple of stories that I'm building right now, because if I forget to say them, then I'm going to be upset. So right now, I'm also, along with Permadeath, that's coming out soon, because obviously that's going to be out June 26th, but people still want to pre-order it. Working on 2 stories right now. As a short story, a Vincent Price story. So any old school horror film lovers, I'm doing a Vincent Price short story. That's the story right there. The art is by Ryan Carr. Again, colors by Damien Philippe. And great little team here. And it's an endearing story, basically told. It has little horror elements to it, but it's more about the person himself, who I'm imagining how he was thinking at the end of his career, and him wanting this desire to have one last role to play. And I thought, wouldn't it be great to tell this story about this horror legend who, you know, to many was immortal, and yet here he is humbled, you know, at the thought of age, and that he's going to be, you know, he's old age now, and he's not immortal, and he's human. So I thought, wouldn't that be a great little tale? So this one we're looking to get to be shown somewhere else in other anthologies, but it will be out in an anthology in a month or two, with other stories, not really horror stories, but other stories in general, and we'll get more into that later. But I'm looking for that to be with a more of a horror anthology with other stories like it, or, you know, maybe even in like a magazine or something like that. And then separately, I've got to mention my buddy. You've got to check out Henry Munez. Okay, Henry Munez is with the Ohlone tribe, and he's a native man. And I'm basically working on Henry Munez on doing a series about his heritage, about his people, the Ohlone people, that actually goes back less than 100 years ago. It was once said that the Ohlone tribe was considered extinct, that there was no more living people of the Ohlone tribe. As it turns out, there's over 500 people or more, including Henry and his family, his granddad. And it's so important that their legacy, their heritage, their stories that goes back thousands of years be told. So I'm working with Henry right now to build basically a series about all those stories and his tales, and that they get the recognition, that they get noticed, because ever since 100 years ago, they've not fully still been officially recognized still as an actual tribe, which is incredible to me. Right. So with these stories that we're going to be doing together, and we met over The Boy Conquered a Mountain, a graphic novel I did, one with heavy metal. We were talking about showing that side of the beauty of his history, but also the truth of his history, which also isn't so pretty. You know, the things that, you know, what happened to the native people when the Spanish came and when the America originally came and everything. So there's so many stories to tell there to do with his tribe and that. So that's something we're working on right now. And there'll be more on that again between now and 2025. I'm working on other things as well, but those are some of the main things. I hope I haven't forgot anything else.
Does he have a link that you would like to share?
Henry Muniz is on Instagram under Henry Muniz. I don't know if there's we don't have any. There's no artwork out yet or anything. It's still pretty disclosed at the moment. It's in the process of being made at the moment. So once we get things rolling with that and something's cut out, we'll put more information out on that one.
All right, and jeez, I'm always here, so anything you got going on, we can always go live and put it out to the universe. That's no problem.
That'd be excellent, man.
And I'm
awesome.
Glad that you took the time, to even do the show with me.
I'm happy we finally got to do it. We finally got to do it, and we needed to do it at a time when there was actually something out to get and buy that we can enjoy and talk about, right? So
here we go.
I'm happy that,
If people only knew that we had this in the works for quite some time. We've been contemplating on this.
That's right.
What COVID or something like that? Like a little after there was Lime came out.
It's crazy.
I would definitely be honored to contribute with any type of artwork, if you need a slideshow for this book, for the YouTube or in your channel, I'm more than happy to do that. I'm a basic with videography as well, doing those type of things. So,
that's awesome.
One artist to another, we could always do something and collab. You're always welcome on this platform. And I'd actually like to do a slide and put it on this channel with your permission, of course, to advertise.
That's fantastic. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Thank you, man.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
And I'm looking forward to more work, as you keep flourishing and bringing more fruition to it.
If I didn't require sleep, there'd be more work done and out there by now. But I gotta sleep. Take care of my kid. Take care of my kid.
I see the pictures, with you and the youngin, out there. I can tell you're a very proud father.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, try to do my best, but
Salute to Junior too. And the people, people are very, cool. Thank you for sticking through with us and rocking out with us. That man is actually my fiance. She's a creative too. She makes stuff.
Excellent.
Man, if you were here, you would see the basement. It looks like a toy store down here.
Oh, it's fantastic. Cool.
Yeah. Also, Mr. Cool, if you put your link in the chat, I'll put it up. And I will put the Mrs. I'm so sorry, I'm all over the place. This is our link to the candles and good products, which actually Mr. Cool made a commercial for us on his channel. He just did it off the frame.
That's awesome.
I thought that was so, righteous of him. So that's our link to our stuff. Also, cool. I would love to make you a customized mug with whatever one of your projects you would prefer. as you can see, I can make it a beer mug. Sublimated.
Oh, that's cool, dude. Yeah, I remember seeing your stuff.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That's awesome.
So
Yeah.
Dead with lime type of mug.
Oh, I could totally see it. Okay, you're intriguing me now. Yeah, I've got to get that series going now.
So if you want to get a little crazier with it, you know, we can do something like that.
Oh yeah, that's cool. Yeah, that's awesome. Wow. Oh yeah.
I can put the Blake Doctor on there like that.
That's fantastic. Cool.
And I'll send it right to you.
Oh, that's brilliant, man. Fantastic. I would love to make something like that.
I always go off the subject like I do in real life. So let me get back to the point. I believe it's August 21st. So, but the last day for pre-order is in June. Correct?
Yes. So it's on pre-order till June 26th. So get it while you still can. There's the link there. Tell your local comic store what one that you want, Permadeath, or what cover you want, or both covers. And then once June 26th ends, that's going to be it. There's, you can still get it on maybe a back order or eBay, but get it while you can. And then it will be released August 21st. Also, it will be out. Sorry, I've been cut off. I'll be at CreepIE-Con or CreepyCon in August, and I'll be at LA Comic Con in September. So if you have copies of Permadeath, I might do a signing in somewhere as well, maybe in there somewhere. And you're in California, I wish I could branch out further, but I don't have the budget. But if you want something signed, especially with Permadeath being out in August, those two cons will be happening in August and September.
Awesome. I might have to mail you my cover to Dead with Lime. But
yeah.
I want to show them one more time, actually. Actually, I'll show them the size. This is what it's about right now. Permadeath is coming out real soon. Everybody go get that. Double
Thank
story.
you.
The price is so reasonable too. To have 2 stories, 48 pages, very good stories. So it's all.
I'm happy you enjoyed it.
Oh, heck yeah! Like I tell you, like I enjoy the stuff. Certain people just know what they're doing. Some people don't. And you definitely got the grit and the talent. So I want to thank you for being on this platform today and sharing, your origins and what got you to this point. Like a really good story for people to be inspired and also to want to go out and create a book. Most welcome.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me on the show, and thanks so much for making this happen. We finally got there, and also all the support over the years too, man. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. I told you that we don't stop. Let's stop being corny now. But yes, thank you everybody for tuning in on this live or even on the pre-recording that will follow up after. Edge of Vegaverse with Jonathan Chance. Sure, order your book, and if you don't make it to pre-ordering your book, when it releases August 21st on all local comic shops, go look out for that support.
Thanks, man. Awesome. Fantastic.
All right, man. You have a blessed one. I'm gonna take it off the live, and we can take it backstage.
Okay, man. Bye. Peace.
Peace.